Hi, so welcome back to this melodic techno tutorial, and we're up to the next stage, which is a pretty important one, the basic fundamental of a techno track. We've got the kick and the kick drum, and back in our project setup we have gotten the kick 2 and we've put it on channel 1, and previously I have loaded up a bit of a kick drum of my own, and we can listen to it first. Let's make a quick pattern here. Quite a meaty kick drum, and before we move any further we're going to get the BPMs directly at the speed we want for our track. And most of this melodic techno that's coming out at the moment, it sort of sits in what I would call more of the BPM, more of the beats per minute that a house track would sit at. A house track with a fair bit of energy, and I would say that most of the kicks, while having a nice punch to them, sit more in the realm of a sine wavy 808 pulsing kick, something that's warm and rounded and that can be molded. And before we actually even go further into this, I'm going to grab, believe it or not, I'm going to grab a calculator. Now, the reason why this is important is sometimes it's really good to be a bit mathematical with things and to figure out exactly how much space you have for something like a kick, which gets re-triggered every beat. And if we're running at 125 beats a minute, it's just basic logic that you will only have a certain amount of time between each kick, and there's some sort of formula to figure out how much time you actually have. And for future reference, you can use this one in many ways. You can use it on broken beat things. You can use it on a standard 4/4 kick pattern like you do in techno. And you just take 60, because you got 60 seconds in a minute, 125 beats a minute, and you just divide that by 125, and it gives you 0.48, which means there are 0.48 seconds between the initiation of your kick drum and the initiation of the next kick drum. And for all intents and purposes, the way to do that on a great kick drum designer is to have a look here at the length. And as you can see, I've got 484. I've just given it a little bit of leeway on the end there, but basically 480 milliseconds, 0.48 of a second, so that this whole waveform only can occupy at its majority the space that you are giving it with your beats per minute calculations. So that is how we're going to start seeing how we built the kick for this. So you have 484 milliseconds, so basically 0.48 of a second to run your whole kick from the transient point at the beginning all the way out to your tail. And I want this whole track to be in the very friendly note, the root note of G, and we can use a few different sort of minor chord variations with that. But the other thing I like about G is it sits just below 50 hertz at G1, which is where we're getting a lot of our energy through this middle part of the kick. And on big club systems, festival systems, that range around the 50 hertz is thunderous. It's big, and it's quite easy to manufacture a kick and to manufacture different basses and sounds and things to go with G. There's a few different bits and pieces that I've also gone into creating this kick. One is the amplitude. So basically you can see that it's not clicking right there. You've got a little bit of a bend. It gives a lot of presence to that first part of the kick and really introduces the lower components of that kick drum at around the right moment in time. You can play around with this, and you can play around with the pitch as well. But this is a very, very simple bass drum, kick drum, and that's a little bit of a sort of variation on a curve there. But this point here is, you'll hear a little bit of difference if we drag this one along, because if you remember over here we've got G0, which is really, that's your sub energy, which is still sort of lingering around just in the middle there. There's not much energy left. So to control this part here is to control a fair bit of that energy before we go and do some EQing. So let's have a listen again. And let's just keep it nice and percussive there, because if we've got too much sub going on, it will just, any musicality or any movement that you have in the bottom there will disappear. It will also become increasingly tough to mix further down the track. In the EQ section here, I've just got a little bump, actually just above 50 hertz there, even though the note is here, but I mean that note is at around 49, which is G1, is going to be quite present anyway. And I just wanted to give a little energy above. We can hear the difference. Just a bit more presence. And here in the mid-range, it takes some of that, we've got some overdrive and distortion sort of working here, and to take some of that buzz out. And the passing filter here just to take all that high end off, but to leave a bit of a click here. Speaking of clicks, we've just got a very short, very, very soft little click here, which you can choose out of all the different ones here. I like to use these sort of very hard, sharp, transient clicks. And then distortion, got a fair bit of distortion on the wave there, just sort of in the mid-low range, and a bit of drive. Nothing too crazy, nothing too serious, and no changes to the sine wave, triangle wave, nothing. Kept it very, very simple, very clean kick. One little trick, and this is a great little tool that I use on, I actually use it on a lot of tracks. I use a lot on a lot of percussion in particular, and I like to use a little bit of it now and again on a kick drum. And Melda Productions, they make a lot of different effects, but one that I really like to use is the Melda Wave Shaper, which you can use as sort of a distortion, overdrive kind of effect, but you can have really good visual control. Here's the UI. So if we just go to the presets, they have a great one for distortion, and it comes at 50% and leaves your input and output the same. So let's just have a listen. Quite loud. So let's take the output down a bit. And if we want it really distorted, you can hear that, but that's not what we're trying here. We just want a bit of extra punch. And we're going to take the DC block off, because we have actually quite a clean kick to begin with, and maybe just peel off a little bit of that distortion. Quite a powerful kick, and we can of course go in and use the EQ8 at the end just to alter a few things. I leave that a little bit for now, but the main thing is if you do want to change it, because we're using a mono kick and a mono source, change it here, change your mode to mids and sides, and just alter the mid section. And there we go, some extra bass. And take a bit of that ring and buzz out again. But basically that's the the crux of creating a kick drum for this project. Something that is simple, fits mathematically perfectly into BPMs, but gives you enough room to move with a couple little tools here to create some musicality and some fine tuning that you may need further down the track.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.